Welcome to Stinky Pop. We make so many pop culture references and tales from the Stinky Dragon, I figured we need a pop culture show to accompany it, but it's only here because of our direct supporters on Patreon. So from the bottom of my heart, this is all their fault, and I hope they're happy with themselves. Today, it is a Christmas miracle, a Stinky gift from the Stinky family to you, our Stinky audience. Normally, shows like Stinky Pop and our other Patreon exclusive shows are only available to our supporters, but we forgot to get you all something this year, so this is our gift to you. A Christmas special where I've gathered our entire cast and crew to talk about our favorite holiday film, or a favorite holiday film of theirs. But you might notice something is missing. Where are Gus, Barb, and Micah? Well, they're in episode, their episode is part 2 of this special. And you guessed it, it's only available for our supporters on patreon.com/stinkydragon. And to top it all off, I told everyone to turn their cams on so I can see their beautiful mugs. And the video is also available on our Patreon, in case you're listening to this on the RSS feeds. So I've got Blaine, Chris, and Ben to talk holiday films. And to start it all off, everyone roll initiative.
Wasn't prepared for this.
I don't have dice. Hold on.
I like how that triggers things in everybody when you just say that sentence.
We have this issue on Behind the Screen, one of our other Patreon shows, where Micah, Gus, and I will always roll initiative at the top to see who has to answer the question first.
Yeah.
And we're always so excited when we roll low. And with that, I want to tell you, John, I rolled a nat 1. I've never been more excited in my life.
Oh my God. 19.
Yeah.
19.
20.
Wow. We got the two extremes. Good job.
Man, I thought I was excited to go first.
It rolled over to 19.
Nope. We're talking
Chris's higher
about
dexterity.
Blaine's choice, which I'll be clear, it was his second choice because he picked Chris's movie, but he was late to the draw. Blaine picked Lethal Weapon.
What a weird pull.
My favorite
I'm going to show a
holiday
replay
movie.
of Chris's reaction that he just did right now, because that was like 20 emotions in about half a second. It's so good. 1987.
Wait. Am I actually going Lethal Weapon?
You said Lethal Weapon.
No, I said one was a different movie, but Lethal Weapon was
And
like
then
the
I
second.
said Chris picked that movie, so you have to do Lethal Weapon.
Oh my God. I haven't watched Lethal Weapon in years.
Okay,
I'll
you know
help.
what? Good news. I just watched it for the first time ever, so we can
great,
talk
isn't it?
about it.
Yeah, it's great.
I can't wait to talk about this movie I've never seen.
Okay. I have mixed feelings on Lethal Weapon.
Okay.
First off, it's very much what I'm calling NSFSD. It's not safe for Stinky Dragon. Because it's rated R. There is nudity within the first minute.
Yeah.
There are drugs within the first minute and a half, and trigger warning, there is self-harm within the first 5 minutes of the movie.
Yeah.
So
it's pretty 80s. It's pretty
very
gritty.
It's very 80s. Written by Shane Black, directed by Richard Donner. Shane Black, known for a lot of movies, known for a Christmas movie I love, Kiss Kiss Bang Bang.
It's a great one.
Which is a very good
He
movie.
loves Christmas movies.
He does. Robert Downey
always writes
Jr.
Christmas
Yeah,
movies.
even his Iron Man movie was a Christmas movie.
Yeah.
Wait, so Chris, you picked Kiss Kiss Bang Bang?
No.
Oh, okay. You said Chris's movie.
No,
That's
Christmas
movie.
Christmas movie.
Yeah, Shane Black has a thing with he writes movies that are like not Christmas movies, but they take place during Christmas.
Yeah. Well, I would disagree on that with some of them. Like, I think Kiss Kiss Bang Bang is a very Christmas movie, but maybe you're right. Maybe you're right.
I'm gonna watch that over Christmas.
It's
I've
Robert Downey
decided.
Jr. and Val Kilmer. It's fantastic.
Rabba Dabba Doo Doo.
Huh?
Robert Downey Jr. That's what you
Robert
said.
Downey-
I was just repeating you.
Richard Donner, didn't realize Richard Donner directed Lethal Weapon, director of Superman, the Christopher Reeve Superman. And one of my favorite obscure movies, which I used to reference my relationship with my girlfriend, Lady Hawk, because I'm an early morning morning person, and she is like a nocturnal person. And Lady Hawk's all about this story about these this fantasy relationship between these two characters, where one is stuck as a hawk during the day, and then the other one is stuck as a wolf during the night.
Hold on, I'm writing all of these movies down. Because apparently I need to immediately end this podcast and go watch Lethal Weapon with what you've described in the first 5 minutes. And then Lady Hawk.
Now, it stars Mel Gibson and Danny Glover, and
Getting too old for this shit.
Yes, don't say the last word. Don't say it.
I'm sorry, it's a quote I didn't mean to.
It's a good.
Gary Busey's also in it too, and he plays
Gary
a really
Busey.
he plays a real cool assassin bodyguard guy.
You know what's funny about Busey in this film is that he was
Got big teeth.
he got that man has teeth. He got like super in shape between this movie and his last movie. This was his first movie of like coming back to like films, and like he wasn't like super big. And this was like the first time he had played like a villain. And so this kind of like this was like a restart for his career. I will say, as problematic as he is now, I was such a big Mel Gibson fan during this, like the 80s and 90s.
Yeah.
And I will admit, the man is jacked and ready to be an action hero in this movie. He's so ripped.
I'll say this about him in this movie is Mel Gibson's Australian, and you can definitely tell in this movie. He's like, yeah,
Is
I'm
he
from
Australian?
I'm from the yeah.
I don't
He's
think
like,
he is.
oh yeah, I'm just from the Midwest, eh? I don't know about that.
I thought I read that he was born in America but lived in Australia for a while.
Maybe, but he has
Yeah.
in this movie when he's like, yeah, I went to Vietnam.
I will argue, though, that this movie is definitely an 80s action movie. It is, like, Shane Black wanted to write a Dirty Harry story, a man who is so, like, far gone, and his only skills are, like, killing people, but he finally finds a use for it that is helpful. And to be clear, Mel Gibson, like, kills, like, a man every 10 minutes in this movie.
It's a high body count.
It's a
And then
high body
also-
count.
It's a really cool dynamic between a very energetic, like action, like hungry young cop, and then a grizzled older cop who's a little bit more by the books. And
Danny
is a
Glover's
lot
character.
more- yeah, he's just like, I just want to play it cool until retirement. That's like the classic line.
Yeah.
Like, I'm getting too old for this. And he's like, oh, it's like that started the trope of like, 1 week away from retirement.
I have one.
And-
I have a question about a scene with Danny Glover. And Blaine, I want to hear your read on this scene. It's his
He's
actually
on the toilet?
No, he's not in the toilet. He's in the bath.
Oh, yeah.
His
yeah.
opening scene is he's in the bath, and then his family comes in to sing "Happy Birthday."
It's a little weird.
He's fully just in the bath. There are some suds covering the parts, but like, I'm a dad. If my kids ever did that, I would scream at them to get out of the bathroom. Like, and these aren't toddlers. Like, his daughter's like 18, basically. And they all come in, sing happy birthday, give him a hug. He even jokes to pull his like young son into the bath, that kind of thing. It's a weird like kind of moment.
80s were a different time.
I really do think is a difference in like a time thing, and then like that's just a family dynamic that we probably don't know about.
How else are you supposed to show the family camaraderie if not set in the bathroom while you're showering?
If not with a nude scene.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do actually think that there is something to that, Ben, though, where it's like they're like, we need to like show that this family is so close knit, tight knit, that this father, if something happens to his daughter, would do anything. And
Where are you
nothing.
the most vulnerable? The shower. All right, cool. We have a setting for the scene. Let's go. Writer's room. Let's get it going.
Bathroom.
Well, you joke, but Lethal Weapon 2 has a pretty good scene in a bathroom.
Is that the bomb defusal scene that I'm thinking of?
Maybe.
Okay,
You can say,
so-
just say.
Okay,
This-
there's a
these
bomb-
are very old movies.
There's a bomb. Yeah. Is it the word diffusion? Is that how you do you diffuse a
Or
bomb?
defusal, yeah.
In on a toilet in the bathroom.
Okay.
It's like that is the other thing I wanted to comment about Lethal Weapon. So like I think my logic behind this movie, and then I'm assuming what Chris's movie is I don't necessarily have to have a Christmas movie be about Christmas. I think in my life, Christmas has kind of just become a setting. It's not, I've separated from the true meaning of it in some ways, and I just like the vibe of Christmas. So I like movies that also just have the vibe of Christmas. Every now and then you see a tree and you hear some Christmas music and you're like, oh, this is a good setting. This feels warm. This feels comfortable. And I like that.
And I would say on that note, this movie because Christmas for a lot of people can be sad times because they feel it's winter, there's less sun, and if you can sometimes feel if you don't have family or you're missing people from family or friends or something,
Like Mel Gibson, this entire film.
Yeah, and this movie I think is a good echo of that, where a lot of people feel that way, but it also has some heart to it that makes you can help you feel better.
Blaine and Chris are really selling it on me. I think December 25th, I'm going to get my family together. I'm going to draw a nice bath. I'm going to gather them all into the bathroom, and we're going to watch Lethal Weapon 1 and 2.
It's so not a pivotal moment of the movie. It just stood out because it was the introduction of Danny Glover's character, and I was immediately like, this is weird. Are they looking at his junk? Are they trying to avoid it the entire time? What are you doing?
Don't think about it. But I do like Chris. That's a good point. I think this shows the range of Christmas and how people can celebrate it. Some people are surrounded by their loving family. Some people are alone and going through serious stuff. And it's just it just covers the breadth of the emotions of the holiday season. But it's set in LA, so it's still warm and sunny.
And it shows people finding other
communities,
finding family in other ways.
Yeah.
Okay.
I also enjoy that, just also from a franchise perspective, Lethal Weapon has probably the best. I don't know. They did sequels really well, in my opinion. I don't think that the sequels are all that weak. I think that the second one is just as fun and epic and is just as quotable.
There's 4 of them in total.
Joe Pesci getting introduced is great,
and Rene Russo, who's another one. And it's
I'll say this. Sorry,
you're good.
The fourth one, I haven't seen them in a while, but the fourth one I feel kind of is the weakest sequel because they took, Riggs, who's this loose cannon.
Yeah.
He's a loose cannon, mate, from Los Angeles.
And then by the fourth movie, he's completely reversed, and so the dynamic of the character is completely changed, and it's kind of taken the
I can understand that. There's got to be a point where he's got to progress past that.
No, I understand that. And that's why
it just takes away from the foil, the
sure,
dynamic
yes,
of Martin being this crazy guy. Let's get nuts, and then Murtaugh being let's calm it down and stuff.
I got a family. Yeah.
Riggs gets. He's not crazy until he's super crazy in this movie. He plays it cool and chill and a very charming guy, and then he's insane. And then he's fighting Gary Busey in. Was it raining or was it a hydrant was broken? I can't remember.
It was a broken
fire hydrant. Fighting him
cool.
Shirtless in the street as the entire LAPD force watches and goes, "Let him have this one."
Yeah.
It seems to be kind of the opposite trajectory of actual Mel Gibson. I'm looking at his Wikipedia page right now, and I'm looking
Don't do that.
80s Gibson and 90s Gibson, who's 90s Gibson, he looks kind of like Henry Cavill. He's wearing nice button down, some suits, but his actual Wikipedia page article image, he looks completely unhinged. Yeah. He has those crazy eyes.
I think he is unhinged. I think deep at his core.
He's lost the thread a little bit. Yeah.
I do think, though, that's very true for people oftentimes who are going through mental issues or, depression.
Sure.
They can seem super happy and friendly and funny, but also have issues. They're very good at hiding.
He is severely suffering from what is clearly PTSD and
depression.
He is mourning the loss of a significant other, and he was in Vietnam. Yeah. And one of my favorite little things that I was reading, because I like to, for any of these movies we talk about, Stinky Pop, I like to do a huge deep dive as much as possible into articles about it and interviews and stuff like that. And I loved reading about the production of the film, where they were we worked really closely with LAPD. Mel and Danny did extensive training for 2 months prior to filming, and then they had supervisors on set the entire time, and they were trying to make it as real for the LAPD experience. And I thought that was hilarious because throughout the entire film they do stuff that is very illegal and very awful. And I was but I get why. It's the action movie thing, But like it all, even that fight scene with Busey and him at the very end, I'm like, this is when they told the tech supervisor, shh, don't tell us this can't happen. We need Mel to be shirtless and using what they described as like new fighting styles that hadn't been really seen in movies. He like capoeira and jujitsu and stuff like that.
Capybara, I love those. They're so cute.
They're cute. They're very cute.
I do Blaine. Tell me this: what is your favorite? What is your favorite thing about this movie? Is it that whole thing that it is not really a Christmas movie? Is that why it's a favorite of yours, or what is that you? Because I think this is one that you said you've watched this a lot. So what's the draw?
I think I don't know if it's like a Christmas draw at all, but I do like the unlikely friendship that develops between Danny Glover and Mel Gibson's characters, and like how good their chemistry is. Because I remember at one point, Riggs does something super unhinged, and he puts himself in another person's life in danger. I think it was like the jumper.
Yeah,
he does something that's that's insane that he should not have done. It's very unsafe.
Yeah,
and it's at that point that like Murtaugh is such a good detective, and he just like he knows this guy's not right, and he is like a comet just like hurling through, and he's gonna just whenever he hits he's gonna explode and everything around him is gonna get destroyed, and he's like, I want no part of that. And he's like you gotta button your stuff up, and like this like talk where he's like get it together and stuff, and it's just such a cool dynamic where it's like I'm clean, I'm almost at retirement, you're not gonna mess this up for me, and this other guy's just like, I don't care.
You know what's funny is I just realized is that the arc and dynamics of Riggs and Murtaugh's relationship and the Lethal Weapon plot line all the way to the very end, how the movie ends, is almost identical to Planes, Trains, and Automobiles with Steve Martin and John Candy.
I just watched that,
where it's
less shooting though.
Yeah, there's way less guns, way less death, way more holiday elements. Although Planes, Trains, Automobiles is a Thanksgiving movie, I think the best Thanksgiving movie. But it still ends with like this like crazy person that you never thought was going to be integrated into this family, and at the very end they all have their meal together. The Lethal Weapon, I think the only real Christmas elements were that there is a gunfight in a Christmas tree farm at the very beginning, and then they end the movie having Christmas dinner together. I don't think Christmas is a part of it the rest of the movie.
And that's totally fine with me. It's the backdrop of a cool movie. Also, real quick side tangent. The trailer, if you haven't watched the movie, or even if you have, just go watch the trailer for the first one.
I love watching old trailers from like the 80s.
They use this song, and I think that they use it in the movie, but it's like a clock ticking to kind of just like show like, like things are going off. Like you don't know if it's like a clock ticking because it's a bomb or because time is running out, but it's like this cool song. And I remember being obsessed with that song, and I could never find it. And they used it again in Shaun of the Dead.
Oh.
Or maybe Hot Fuzz. I think it might have been Hot Fuzz.
That makes sense.
But anyways,
for
I was
Hot Fuzz.
obsessed with the song, and then I ended up cutting a version of it for a student film in college because it was just such a good, like, high energy, like tense musical thing. This movie's great. It's like classic 80s. It's from a time where you didn't need a CGI helicopter outrunning a avalanche of like monster trucks, like the Fast and the Furious franchise.
Sure.
It's just like you watch this and you're not at all invested because it doesn't feel real. But you watch this and you're like, no, this feels like real action. And
it's funny you mentioned helicopters. The original ending did involve more action as opposed to kind of ending on that fight scene, and it was going to involve like a car chase with helicopters.
So Lethal Weapon came out 87.
Yeah.
Die Hard came out 88.
Yeah.
Both are set during Christmas.
Yeah.
Do you think
And
Lethal
LA.
Inspired inspired Die Hard to be set there? Or
They
do you
were
think it was
in
too
production
late? They were already in
overlapping,
production.
that kind of thing.
Die Hard was based off of a novel.
Yeah.
It was one of those things of like, man, if I had a nickel every time this happened, I'd have 2 nickels, but it's still weird that it happened twice that close together.
The last thing
It's frustrating because I think Shane Black also often gets credited for doing Die Hard because
does he?
There's so many similarities. There was like a funny panel where he was on it, and someone was like, "When you were writing Die Hard," he's like, "Nope, nope."
I think actually, there was like with all these movies, there's always a million actors that are looked for this stuff, and I think it was like Bruce Willis was looked at for Mel Gibson's part. The last thing I want to talk about Lethal Weapon, because we do have 2 more movies to talk about, and I want to be able to give time for those. Is I want to tell you my only experience ever with Lethal Weapon prior to watching it yesterday, 2 days ago, something like that. For some reason, back in the day when we were kids, you would turn on the TV and just flip through the channels and find movies. I flipped through the channels, found Lethal Weapon, and the only scene I'd ever seen, and I was waiting for it the entire time I was watching the movie, is Mel Gibson hanging from the chain and getting electrocuted with that sponge thing.
Yeah.
And that was the only scene I'd ever seen of Lethal Weapon. So I had no idea what this movie was. So even watching, I was like, oh, he's the Lethal Weapon. Okay, now that answers the question. That's nice to know.
Yeah, because there's a line. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I finally experienced it. I know who's the Lethal Weapon. It's Mel Gibson.
I talked to Josh Flanagan, a friend of ours, and we were writing in like he, I think, has some sort of connection with Shane Black, but he was always talking about how Shane always writes characters who are the best at what they do.
Yeah.
And Martin Riggs is he's like the best soldier. He's the best at what he does.
Yeah.
And I think that always makes for a fun character where it's like, he's the best there is.
I would highly advise people to check out Kiss Kiss Bang Bang and Nice Guys, which are, I think, 2 of Shane Black's best films.
And they're also Christmas settings.
Nice Guys is not. But Kiss Kiss Bang Bang is.
Oh, Nice Guys ends on Christmas.
Does it?
There is a Christmas moment, I think, in the very end. I think it might have been a
callback
to Shane always doing Christmas settings. Because Iron Man 3, Shane Black, also Christmas.
Russell Crowe and Ryan Gosling, so good. He loves to pair people together. But that's Lethal Weapon. I think it's a choice that no one's surprised that would be in Blaine's cadre of favorite movies. Speaking of Blaine's cadre of favorite movies, Chris, what movie did you pick?
You know my name, but just another American who saw too many movies as a child, another orphan of a bankrupt culture who thinks he's John Wayne, Rambo, Marshall Dillon. Blaine, what's the next line?
What, something about yippee ki.
No, he doesn't say that.
He says it, doesn't he?
No, then he goes, well, I was always partial to Roy Rogers.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then they have some more stuff, and he's like, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, yippee-ki-yay, mother effer.
Trucker.
Mother trucker.
I'm so glad we got that on video. For anybody who's watching the video version of this,
probably not
Chris
the
got
first
so
time
excited.
we've gotten it on video. Chris has tried to bring in his Gruber impression as often as possible, which is very fun. For those who don't know, Die Hard is the movie we're talking about.
Hard.
We haven't said the name. 1988.
Well, we've talked about it already.
I have 2 things I want to say about this film.
Mm-hmm.
This is the second time I've watched it. I rewatched every film that everyone picked, even the ones that I've seen before. The only one I had never seen before was Lethal Weapon. And actually, I want to say thank you, Blaine, for giving me an excuse to finally watch the movie. I love ticking off movies off like my I never watched it list. And this was like just a great excuse. I'm like, oh yeah, I've never seen it.
Go through the whole franchise because when Rene Russo shows up, ooh.
Yeah, I was reading up on interviews, and she showed up in a lot of the interviews I was looking at, and they were talking about her being a really good pivotal addition to the group. I finally get this movie, Die Hard.
You didn't before?
No, because I will say that on its surface, it's very easy to judge the movie as a soulless action movie.
Oh, but it's not.
Let me finish. Let me finish.
Sorry.
Let me finish. A soulless action movie that its only real claim to fame is some, obviously iconic and cheesy visuals that people like to repeat. John McClane crawling through a vent, his bloody feet, stuff like that. Or its argument, is it a Christmas movie or not? I get it. It's actually a comedy that takes place in an action story. And if you watch it, for some reason, the second time I watched it, it's actually made with a lot of effort. And maybe this helped that I read about how the movie was made and all that. And that probably can really help you appreciate movies more, especially if there's a lot of really interesting stuff out there from like, I read stuff from the cinematographer and the writer and the director and all these people and interviews with like, what's his name? Dad from Family Matters.
Reginald Val Johnson.
Yeah, Val Johnson, all that kind of stuff. And I really enjoyed it this time. I did not enjoy it the last time I watched it. I thought it was a dumb action movie. I'm glad I rewatched it. This movie's actually pretty fantastic. And
John, let me be the first to say, welcome to the party, pal.
Okay. Oh, wait. That was great. You've seen the movie, right?
Die Hard is the movie I like start like the holiday season.
Okay,
with.
good.
I
Okay.
love watching
Great.
Die Hard at the
My
beginning
brother
of like
watch
December.
it every Christmas.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like something my brothers and I all watch together. I love that movie.
I got to show it to Kristen, I think, last Christmas or the Christmas previous to that because she had never seen it. And I was like, it's December.
Christmas, I gave you Die Hard.
Die Hard.
Okay, and the other thing I wanted to say really quick before I give you, Chris, a moment to talk about why you love this movie is I have a really fun fact about this movie. This movie wouldn't have happened if Sybil Shepherd hadn't gotten pregnant.
Go on.
While the movie was in pre-production, they were trying to cast John McClane, which they actually went through tons of people. They wanted to get Bruce Willis, but he had a scheduling conflict because he was a TV actor. That's what this was his foray into film, and he was doing moonlighting with Sybil Shepherd. But thanks to the fact that she got pregnant, it shifted his schedule enough that for the beginning of production, he was Michael J. Foxing it, and he was filming moonlighting during the day, and then he would go to the Fox Plaza and film Die Hard at night, which is crazy. But it actually, I'll talk about how that actually helped the movie. But because his schedule opened, he was able to take this movie, and that is the only reason that he was able to Die Hard and why we have Die Hard the way it is. So thank you, Sybil Shepherd, and your child.
Way to go.
Yeah.
Okay,
Chris.
Chris, why do you pick this movie?
Well, I want to quickly address the claims that it's not a Christmas movie, just to get that out of the way.
I'd love to. I'd love to hear this.
It's 100% a Christmas movie.
I would agree.
The entire plot takes place at a Christmas party the night before Christmas. There's Christmas decorations throughout the movie. There's the soundtrack is almost entirely Christmas movies. I mean, Christmas
Music,
songs.
yeah.
There's Christmas music everywhere.
He just played Christmas movies for the soundtrack. It was just
Yeah,
like clips from Christmas Carol.
and it ends again in L.A. but with surrogate snow falling down.
Oh, the papers.
It's like
The paper, yeah, the burning papers.
Yeah, and
which,
so
by
it's
the
just
way,
like,
Shane Black wanted. I forgot this other thing. Lethal Weapon was going to end with all that stuff and a snow of cocaine is what it was supposed to end with. Genuinely, Chris, I'm glad you brought that up because I actually thought long and hard about this, and I've come up with. I'm sure I'm not the first person to come up with this, but this is my take on it. You guys know what the Bechdel test is, right?
Yes.
yeah,
Bechdel
for those.
Yeah, Bechdel test is, does a movie pass the Bechdel test? It can if there are two female actors that have a conversation that is not about another man or a man. I've come up with the Ebenezer test. Can this movie have happened how it worked if Christmas was removed? Now, I would actually argue not to remove, your choice. I'd say Lethal Weapon actually could work perfectly with the entire Christmas element removed. However, Chris, you're correct. A pivotal reason why John McClane is at the what's the name of the
Nakatomi Plaza.
Yeah, Nakatomi Plaza is because he is coming in town for a Christmas party. Now, he wouldn't have come into town and stayed, for anything else other than if he had done that, it would have just been him awkwardly staying with his like on-off, ex current wife kind of thing.
Current wife.
And it would have been
still
very
married but not together.
Yeah.
Estranged.
And it was the Christmas party is what wraps the whole thing together. And you're right. There's all kinds of other Christmas elements, including like, the sweater that he writes on with blood on the guy that he kills with the little, ho, ho, ho.
The tinsel.
And that kind of thing. It's just, I'm so glad we're recording video so we can see what your mouth has to do your Alan Rickman.
It's weird.
Blaine,
it's the same
do you
thing
wanna
you have
try
to
an
do
Alan
whenever
Rickman?
you do.
Oh my God. Now I'm trying to think. of a quote. Oh, I blew it. Now I have a machine gun.
There it is.
You got to lock the jaw out.
You do. A lot of under.
I feel like it's the same thing you kind of tend to do, like when you're trying to do a Mateed voice. You like shift your mouth in a way of like.
Mateed would like Alan Rickman, by the way. What were you gonna say, Ben?
For the mind and now the senses. Sorry, it's Harry Potter.
My name is Mateed Confucius.
That's actually pretty good, man.
That's not bad.
Very good. Another fun thing I learned about this movie: it has 4 Academy Award nominations.
Oh,
Kudos to it.
Yeah,
well deserved.
It's for the categories you would expect from this movie: film editing, visual effects, sound mixing, and sound editing. Now, but I would actually argue, I think it actually earned all of those nominations. And for some reason, maybe it was the way I watched it this time, it's actually got a fantastic sound mix to it. It's, I don't know what it was, but like even just the gunshot sounds were just, they really hit me in the chest. And it's Bruce Willis's performance is actually very subtle and different than previous action heroes. They wrote the whole thing to be like, what if like just a
regular guy.
Yeah. Was an action hero.
Not an action hero.
Yeah,
He's
not like a Schwarzenegger or a Rambo or something like that.
wait.
Well, and that's the whole thing. It's like, oh, you think you're a Rambo, you think you're John Wayne or whatever. And it's like, no, he's just like a guy who's, it's like he's just a dude. And that's why he was not an action hero.
No,
when they cast him, he did comedies.
Yeah.
He was a TV comedian.
Yeah. I mean, this is why we have Bruce doing all those kinds of movies.
I was actually talking with my partner while I was watching this movie, and she asked, like, who would you cast if you were to reboot Die Hard these days? Like, because Bruce Willis is such I don't want to call him like an everyman, but he's so different from someone like Arnold Schwarzenegger in any of these like action movies, right? Like, who would fit today?
Bruce is a very subdued actor.
Paul Rudd.
Oh, Paul Rudd. Oh, that would be. It'd be a very different dynamic.
Yeah,
but it would be really funny.
It'd have to be a comedic style actor. You said Schwarzenegger earlier, and I mentioned Frank Sinatra. So this was supposed to be like an adaptation of the book The Detective, and they made that into a movie starring Frank Sinatra. And I think that there was somewhere in there that they had to offer the role of John McClane to Frank Sinatra, but by this time he was super old.
He was 70. He was 70 when this movie was
so he
made.
wasn't going to take it. But then
It'd
also,
be funny if he had.
Oh yeah, like that was the funny thing, that they had to offer it to him, and I'm like, man, Frank should have taken it. Just should have taken it.
But John McTiernan directed this, and he also did Predator and Commando. And in Predator and Commando, they have, I think, a fictional country called like Valverde or something like that.
Yeah.
And these are, I think they reference that in this movie. So these are all like in the connected universe of Predator and Commando.
The McTiernan cinematic universe.
And I think John Matrix was also supposed to be the same character.
McTiernan actually wrote or directed one of my favorite action movies of all time, which does star Schwarzenegger, Last Action Hero, which is a parody on the action movie franchise. And it's fantastic. I highly recommend people check that out.
And John McTiernan rocks, and he just got out of prison, so I hope he directs another banger.
Wait, why was he in
prison?
Why was
he in
prison?
It was like tax fraud,
wasn't it?
Tax fraud,
yeah.
That's
John
always
McTiernan
why they
rocks.
Go. Hey, justice for John McTiernan.
I'm still.
You what?
How long was he in prison?
Oh, I don't know. I think he got out a decent amount of time ago, and I know that he currently has. He has something in production, but it's been like in production hell for a minute.
I'm still stuck on Frank Sinatra and Die Hard. I like just imagine getting through that whole movie, and you get to the end, you're like, "You're a loose cannon cop. How did you stop the bad guy?" And he turns to the camera and he goes, "I did it my way."
My way.
Like, oh, what fade to black. Oh, what a great movie.
Ben, you got some zingers in this podcast.
Yeah, Ben's
All
just sitting there
caffeine, no
quietly
breakfast.
waiting for these moments. Another fun thing I read about this movie is I was reading an interview by the cinematographer Jan de Bon, who shot Die Hard, but then also directed Speed and Twister. Accomplished filmmaker. They were talking about how it was either him or maybe I was reading D'Souza, who was one of the writers on it. They were talking about how in action movies, you need to have a hate cute, which is like a meet cute in rom-coms, but it's between the hero and the villain. And the hate cute for Die Hard actually came out of a moment on set where a crew member was talking with Alan Rickman, and he was unknown at this point. This is actually his
first movie.
Yeah, this
first
is his launch. He was
Really?
he was a stage actor, and known, a little bit in London, but not known, or England, not known at all here. Anyways, they were like, hey, we hear a lot of like English actors have like an American accent, and Alan Rickman's like, oh, I don't have I have a Californian accent is what I can do. And so he did it. The writer heard him and said, and went and grabbed someone else, like the producer, was like, Alan, do that again. And he did it again. And then they went and grabbed the director, and he's like, do it again. And so Alan's like, did it again. He's like, why are you making me do this? And they were, and like D'Souza and the director looked at each other, and he's like, do you get it? And he's like, oh yeah. And so that's why Gruber and McClane meet each other, and Alan Rickman pulls out that fantastic American accent.
You're one of them. You're one of them, aren't you?
It's so good.
God.
Yeah.
I want to know what the line was that the guy heard that was like, do it again. Like keep delivering that line.
I can't remember. Actually, I think they wrote it down. But I love that. I love moments like that. Like they were rewriting a lot of the movie
while
as,
shooting.
Yeah. But which is crazy because they actually were highly prepared for the movie, because they wrote the movie. The first writer, I can't remember his name, but D'Souza got his hands on it, and he had access to Fox Plaza before they actually started principal photography, which is where they shot.
Because it was actually under construction, so they used that in the movie. Like they were like incorporating elements of the.
It's like one of those like dream location finds where it's like this, like,
playground.
Yeah, this playground, this like very obelisk like tower that looks like it should be this super advanced, business building. But then it was also like partially under construction, so they had plenty of place to do filming in there. It had a rooftop for them to do.
So many good action devices.
Well, yeah, and that's what I was gonna say was
moments.
that they got to go through and like blueprint the script around the building, and so that's why all the action is very meticulously scripted and shot in very specific ways, because they basically went in and planned the whole thing in the building.
I've had dreams about that, but in a terror nightmare dreams before.
Explain.
You know how you always have those dreams where you're like, you show up and you realize you skipped the class and you have a test or something.
Sure.
It was when we were at Rooster Teeth, and it was like Laser Team 3 or something. And,
Oh my God.
I was talking with Matt Holm, who's directing it, and he was like, yeah, we don't really have the script for this next scene, but it takes place in this room. Like, do you think you could like write
5 minutes.
God.
We're shooting it. We'll be here in an hour.
I probably shouldn't tell you guys this, but that's sometimes how it feels when we're filming Stinky Dragon, where I'm like,
That's
okay, here's
just
an
your
empty
PTSD
room.
from how you wrote our first quarantine campaign for RTD&D. That's
Oh,
just
man.
PTSD from that.
There were sometimes days we'd wake up and I go, all right, Gus, I got 3 sentences for you. One of them is descriptive. Have fun. Good luck.
Also, I did some quick research. John McTiernan actually went to prison because he was doing a lot of wiretapping illegally.
Oh, really?
He did go in through some financial problems. And had to file for
Wiretapping?
bankruptcy. Yeah, I think it was like on the production of Rollerball, and then there was also an invasion of privacy civil suit filed against him.
I remember
probably-
reading all about this. Yeah, it was like a whole thing about a dispute on money or something.
There's-
and about
It's like
rights
Rollerball,
or
and
something.
someone was trying to like he was trying to get someone on tape talking badly about the production company.
yeah,
and it was
and
Wow.
it was illegal wiretapping.
Sounds
Chris
like great
probably
research
found
for a
out about that.
wiretapping movie.
Yeah, Chris probably found out about that because he had a hidden camera show at one point at Rooster Teeth.
No, I think it was just that late night, watch Wikipedia, and then you like, and it sounds like I do the same thing that John does, which is just like read up on the movies and like the production aspects of them. Not all of them, but a lot of times I do. And I like watching a lot of breakdowns, video,
like
diaries
DVD extras and stuff like that.
Yes.
Speaking of which, I have 3 other fun things I learned about this movie that I think helps people enjoy the movie more. One was we were talking about how I was telling you guys about how Bruce Willis was not able to be on production during the day for a while until he got off moonlighting. That actually forced or inspired them to write more supporting character stuff. So Reginald Val Johnson, his character was actually fleshed out more.
I shot a key.
It's such a good line. It's such a good line. And the whole scene of McClane's wife meeting Gruber and like taking charge of like the situation and telling him like, you need to feed these people, that kind of thing.
Oh, that's great. Yeah.
That was written in.
She's a great character.
Bonnie Bedalia.
Yeah. So basically every time you watch the movie and it's not a Bruce Willis moment, that's actually them going, we need to film some other stuff. So we're going to, even the schemy reporter, that was a whole thing that they like fleshed out and like went and shot with like, the nanny and the kids at the house.
It's such a good, well-written movie, though, despite them,
despite the fact that it was like made on the fly a little bit.
It really is a tight script.
Yeah, and there's very few like flaws, but like one of the big ones is the ambulance at the very end being in the semi truck.
Well, don't spoil stuff.
Oh, that it's not there.
Sorry,
it's not there, and then it is there.
There's a huge continuity issue, but like the movie's so good, it's kind of like Jurassic Park, where there's also a huge continuity issue in that.
There's actually a reason
but no one
behind that
cares
continuity
because
error.
the movie's so good and you're just along for the ride. What were you saying?
There's actually a reason behind that continuity error. They didn't plan that until they were doing this like supporting character stuff, and so the guy in the limo, they fleshed him out more and came up with the reason for him to stay around and to that thing, and so they wrote it in. He's got some fun shots of like him like living it up in that limo and then like just insanity happening behind him. The other fun thing I was reading about,
knowing that they like used like everything like they used this building that was like in construction, like they fit scenes. I like to imagine that just like someone got injured on set and they called an ambulance in. They're like, we got to film this. We got to get this into the movie. We should use this while we have it.
The other thing I was reading about was the action visual effects stunts that they were doing. And how I'd say there's one really silly shot in this movie. There's probably more than one, but there's one that really stood out in this viewing, which is when, the FBI is like sending in the squad, and ruining the whole thing. And they send in that truck, and the truck storms the building. And like the whole time,
he's literally saying, all through the, he's saying the Christmas poem during that scene. Like it's incorporated into.
Yeah.
I love that they build it all up. The German terrorists are like putting together that like the rocket launcher, and it's like this whole thing. And then they cut to the shot of the rocket hitting. Like it seems like they're gonna shoot this thing as it comes up. This car drives forever, by the way. It like the whole time that they're putting together the whole rocket launcher, I'm like, how far away was this car? This special car. Anyways, they finally cut to the shot that they're shooting the car, and they like the rocket launcher is like in the second story window, just right above the car, just like shooting down at it as though it's like just pot shooting. And they talked about how like that was one of those moments where they like, there's like a string between the rocket launcher and the car, and the rocket travels with it, and then the car like explodes, like all the windows blow out at the same time and everything like that.
Again, like practical effects.
Yes.
It's believable.
Yes.
It's fun.
Yeah.
It ages well.
Yes. I would agree.
Yeah. And you
agree.
mentioned like the side characters, and it's not just like the good side characters you fall in love with, like the FBI cops, Johnson and
They're
Johnson.
so silly. They're so silly.
Why do they have the same name? Who cares? And then they're just like,
It's Johnson,
talking
the other one.
they're talking about like one of them's a Vietnam vet, and he's like, I was in third grade, or something
it's just
like that.
little like real moments that
Yeah.
all like just good dialogue.
It's
good
very funny.
Characters.
It feels like on set you can tell that the director was like, okay, we need this shot. You go take cover behind that, bar. You're preparing your gun because someone's about to come in. And then he grabs the candy bar.
I know.
Like it's just such a weird
yeah.
little detail, but like it just makes it so much more human.
Yeah.
Character even to even the little Goonies,
Yeah.
like the little bad guys. Who
The
don't-
very tall blonde Hans. They all should just be named Hans. I know there's one named Hans and then the rest are, but they're all just Hans to me. I do want to talk about the infamous falling shot. Which everyone, this is a spoiler, but I think everyone's seen this. The shot of Gruber falling at the end. It's one of those things that's shown in like every film montage that's ever made.
Every parody, it's been parodied in like Family Guy, like every animated series out there that wants to make a joke.
they used a technology that previously had only been developed and used for military purposes to focus on Rickman as he fell, because it was a rack focus that would have been impossible to nail manually because he's falling 70 feet and it's in slow-mo. So if the focus was out of focus, it would have been out of focus for forever. And so they actually had to use this, it's like basically like computer technology that was like calculating the speed of his descent and racking the focus with him so that it would go down with him, which I also love that Alan Rickman did the stunt and had to fall, several takes. And it is true. They didn't tell him when they were going to drop him. It was like, we're going to drop you on 3, and they drop him on 2, but they did it multiple times. Because they wanted to get it. They wanted to get it. They did it multiple times because they wanted to get the surprise. But you can't just have a surprise. They needed him to also be able to show emotion of like his realization he's dying. Like that's what they also wanted to give that thing. But I love that shot like took so much work and endeavor, and it's just an iconic film shot.
I like Ellis is my favorite side character.
Ellis is.
He's the guy that is clearly trying to get with John's wife.
Oh, the one who's like caught doing like blow at the beginning of it.
He like negotiates deals for breakfast.
You know when that guy walks in, you're like,
I'm your number one. I'm your white knight.
It's so the entire scene. You're like, I can't wait till they shoot this guy. They're going to shoot him, and I cannot wait.
But even like John McClane is like a good character. Is like, Ellis, don't mess with these guys.
Yeah.
Like you don't know what you're doing.
Yeah.
And then he's like trying to stop him, even though this guy's a terrible dude.
I negotiate multi-million-dollar deals for breakfast. I think I can handle some Euro trash.
Yeah.
The stunt that kills me every time that I watch it, I guess now, is John McClane falling through the elevator shaft, missing the first ledge he was going for.
Was an accident.
And going for the next one.
That was not a scene intended. Extension though, right? That wasn't like he was actually in an elevator shaft,
sure
right?
Yeah, but
he
did that stunt. The stuntman was supposed to catch the ledge and missed, and they just used it.
It's perfect.
So cool.
Great.
I didn't know that. That's awesome.
I have to rewatch that. I've heard that before, but I don't know what
he hits it like hard. Like it is not a like, oh, he just kind of bounced off. No, that dude bangs off a metal wall and then somehow grabs the ledge underneath it.
The stuff where action heroes mess up is so good to me. Like they do that really well.
It's never good on set. You never want it to happen.
Yeah. No, but
use it if you got it.
What is the one wherever it's like Ghost? Is it Ghost Protocol where they're in Dubai on the super high building and he's like supposed to swing and grab hold of the ledge, instead just bangs his head, and it's just like whenever it's like, oh yeah, it's not always. It's so much more interesting when they're not perfect.
Yeah.
Well, it feels like in character too for John McClane, right?
Yeah, because
he's not used to that. He's just a New York cop.
Well, and that's why Die Hard. Like, I know that 2 gets a lot of hate, but Die Hard 1, 2, and 3 are like, I think, a really solid trilogy. It's not till 4 and 5, like Live Free Die Hard, and then A Good Day to Die Hard, that he becomes Superman, and he's literally fighting 1v1 like a fighter jet.
He gets
airplane
the Fast and Furious treatment.
Yes, the first 3, it's like
I'm gonna watch Die Hard 2 now.
It's a Christmas movie. It's another one that takes place during the holidays.
I had no interest. I had no interest
She's coming
in
to visit him.
I have a direct.
Go for it.
I have a direct connection with the actors from both of the movies we talked about.
Yeah. Who'd you start?
Oh yeah, you directed.
In Day 5, I worked Gary Busey's son.
That's right.
And then also
Jake Busey.
Yeah.
You're looking it up now. Who's the other person you have connection to? You cleaned Bruce Willis's head once.
No, sorry. William Sadler in I worked with him. He is in Day 5 season 2, so I directed him in that. So it's like,
and Sadler is who and
William Sadler's in Die Hard
villain.
2.
He's the villain.
Oh, in Die Hard 2.
Yeah.
See, I don't
he's
know.
the main bad guy. He has this amazing scene where he's doing Tai Chi in the nude, and he's shredded. I mean, he's like an absolute unit. And then you're supposed to be like, oh, this guy's not right in the brain. Like he's like
he's
like
unhinged a little bit.
They didn't tell him about that scene they told him about that scene after he was like on the first, like after he's already signed up for the movie. He's like, can we shoot it last? Because I need to get in shape for it.
Shredded.
Yeah. Like
What did he end
so
up doing?
funny.
He just worked out the entire movie so that whenever they actually got to filming it, he was ready for it.
I mean, it shows. I don't want to spoil it too much, but it is like it's this just hulking guy, and then he does this thing with this final move where he turns the TV off the remote, but it looks like a gun, and you're like, oh, that guy's insane. That's our villain for the movie.
Okay, Die Hard. I'm won over. I like it. It's gonna add it into the rotation of my Christmas movies. Thank you for making me watch it again, and thank you, Ben, for picking your movie.
I was gonna say I'm so happy.
It is one of my favorite Christmas movies ever, and I'm so happy when anybody else brings it up. What movie did you pick, Ben?
I picked Jingle All the Way. I'm so happy that we have
action
like
stars all around. Action
Yeah.
stars all around.
oh
Very
man,
thematic episode.
We've got some crazy action heroes in our.
Yeah.
This is such a bro Christmas special.
Oh yeah.
gather your
There's
family
actually a
around, the
connection
three of you.
between Jingle All the Way and Die Hard. You want to know what the connection is?
yeah.
Schwarzenegger turned down the role of John McClane to do comedies, which he went on to do Twins with Danny DeVito. He wanted to branch out into other films, and so we almost had Schwarzenegger do this role, which is why we have Schwarzenegger in Jingle All the Way, because he became infamous for doing comedies and family movies and that kind of stuff in his later years.
Can you, for people who aren't as familiar, what's the premise of this movie?
Oh
I've
man,
seen it.
I'm so glad you asked, Chris. It is about Arnold Schwarzenegger, who is playing this like hardworking, kind of workaholic dad who is trying to get. He misses and he's chronically late for like all of his son's like big events, like karate classes and whatnot. His like, the wife's starting to get onto him about it. And for Christmas, the kid just wants one single thing. It's a toy. It's Turbo Man. And he basically last minute Christmas Day has to go out to get this toy that he's told his wife that he definitely already has, just left it at the office, and the adventure that happens from that. And man,
Him trying to acquire a hot
Turbo
toy
Man.
before Christmas. It's basically a Furby or like Buzz.
Tickle
they
Me
keep calling it
Elmo
a
was
they
the-
keep calling it a
that-
doll, and at one point he gets corrected to like action figure, but throughout the movie everyone calls it a doll. It's just such a 90s movie. It has like the 90s like push-ins, like you have like a long hallway scene with Arnold Schwarzenegger where he realizes it's going to be like hard to get this toy or something, and he does that like shocked face, eyes wide, and the
Jaws
camera like
shot.
punches in.
It's
Oh,
got
the-
old
the
Jake
Zolly.
Lloyd in it before.
I
think
forget this movie has Jake
Anakin.
Lloyd until I watch the movie, and
Jake Lloyd was a huge child actor, and then Star Wars completely ruined his career because people started to hate him.
It ruined his
un-
career,
unration-
and then
irrationally.
he has suffered severely from mental illness since then. He is highly schizophrenic.
The way I like to describe this movie poorly to friends is, what movie can you watch the Terminator disappoint and redeem himself to baby Anakin while fighting the brother of a blues brother and his army of mall Santas?
Oh, whoa,
Like-
whoa. That's a great way of phrasing it.
So
It's
funny thing about
wild.
this movie is that it was originally written by Randy Kornfield, who this is derived from him watching his in-laws desperately on Black Friday try to get this Power Ranger doll, which you can tell Turbo
one?
Man's very Power Rangery.
Gotta be Green Ranger. No, gotta be Red Ranger.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. Which, by the way, I was going to say, I didn't say this about Ben, your choice of this. I would say this is one of the most anime Christmas movies ever.
Absolutely.
And this feels very much in your foray of like your interest. And so every single person, this was like a weird personality test. Everyone picked stuff that spoke volumes about their personality. And no one missed the mark. No one missed the mark.
It's just one of those, like, I didn't really get into like pop culture and movies until I was like,
Yeah, this is one of the
17, 18.
latest movies that's picked of the Christmas movies. 1996 is
and so most of my like movies or Christmas holiday movies are like spent with my family, like watching like more like family oriented movies. So this was a movie my dad was like,
This is a movie
Oh,
that
I
is saved
love
for
this.
Stinky Dragon.
yes, this is a movie that's safe for Stinky Dragon, but adults will still love.
They
like
should love it.
there's stuff in this movie as I was like rewatching through last week that I was like, oh, there's several things in here probably can't do in today's movies, but also two, like you can't, you watch through and as a kid, you're like, I remember this scene being like so much longer, feeling so bad for like Arnold Schwarzenegger's character. But then as an adult, you're like, this idiot. Oh my God. Like I can't believe this scenario he's ended up in, but also it's like so funny that just like flew over like kids' heads. Right.
It was
Like what? Can you elaborate?
Well, I think the whole premise of it doesn't really. It's something that had to happen in the 90s because this, fervent rush for the in-person brick and mortar store items is a thing of the past. Like even the shots of the store employees getting stepped on and, parents pushing people into shelves and that kind of thing. Like, it's funny, Blaine, you were about to say Buzz Lightyear. It was actually rewritten by Chris Columbus, who had the same situation trying to get a Buzz Lightyear one year.
Interesting.
And
Chris
so
Columbus?
it's all based around that kind of a thing of a bygone past,
Like fervent Black Friday fever when like people would get
Yeah.
together and line up at like 4 in the morning to
Yeah.
get into stores first.
I was gonna say I would argue that that holiday rush still exists because like PlayStation 5s were like very difficult to acquire, but I guess the
Occasionally,
internet
but
has
not as much as it used to be.
Yeah.
Like when you think about Black Friday and like
This movie
the
had-
original
15 years
original
ago,
toy of
20
this
years
was
ago.
Cabbage Patch Kids. That was the original toy. That was
it?
the
That's
yeah.
like- that's I think I don't remember that.
This movie has like the stampede in the mall where like a group of people are like literally stepping
Oh, the
over
balls?
employees. Like, there's the ball scenario where for whatever reason, the owner of the shop is like for a megaphone is using some toy with a
It's so
microphone
great.
to like
It's so great.
talk to the audience that's
Yeah.
there. And then they just throw all the balls up. It's like in a lotto
It's
system
like a
to get
raffle
this thing.
situation.
And Arnold Schwarzenegger has to like crawl through a mall playground full of kids.
Yeah.
And like he gets accused of being some like creep toward these kids and beaten by a
Ben.
bunch of moms.
I think people could argue for themselves what their favorite thing that Arnold Schwarzenegger says in his accent is. There's always lines that everyone loves, get to the chopper, that kind of thing.
It's not the
I-
Puma.
It's not
kill
Tuma.
me. Do it now.
I would actually argue my favorite line is in this movie. It's after
cookie down.
No, and that's a great movie as well. Put it down. That's a great line from this movie. Put the cookie down. That's what it is. No, it's after he is caught trying to wrestle the ball from a little girl, and all the moms are banging on him and yelling at things. And he's like, he retorts back. He goes, "I'm not a pervert." It's so good. It's such a good Arnold line.
He's like in the ball pit and he's like, "Hello, little boy." And he like picks up this red ball. He's like, "Do you want to trade this red ball for me?"
It's very much a thing that if a parent saw that, you'd be like, "That's a pervert. There's a pervert in the ball pit."
Get that. I'm not the pervert.
And I feel like if you're watching a movie today, you'd be like, "Ooh, this feels a little like too real or like creepy."
Yeah.
But there's also like the two other things that stood out to me that I was like, "Ooh, I don't know." Like there's a literal like bomb package scene in
Yeah.
this with Sinbad and it was Martin Mull, who's like the principal from Sabrina the Teenage Witch.
Yeah.
He plays a DJ in this scene and Sinbad pulls a package out and he starts shaking it and being like, "This is a bomb. Don't mess with me."
Oh, baby, that's pre 9/11.
Let's talk about Sinbad for a second, because I went down a little bit of a rabbit hole because like, where has Sinbad been? Because he was huge in movies, these kinds of movies, for a while.
Shazam.
Nope.
I'm just kidding. I know.
But he kind of went away for a while, and it turns out he did a lot of TV work, a lot of voice acting work. In fact, he's Mr. Smiley in Steven Universe, the owner
really?
of the arcade.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah, that was a fun little thing. He did have a comedy special in 2010 that did pretty well, apparently. But he also had a stroke in 2020 and is still recovering from it.
I did not know that.
Poor guy.
I love him being cast in this because, one, he is enormous next to Arnold, which they actually did that on purpose. They wanted to get somebody who would not look small next to Arnold so that they could like kind of be a foil to each other, that
foil,
kind of
yeah.
thing. But there's a moment where they're standing next to, it's when they meet in the line for the first store, and Sinbad's standing over Arnold. I didn't realize Sinbad was that big of a guy. But
They really do. So go,
No, you go.
They do their best to minimize Arnold's bodybuilder physique. They put him up against Big Show, who's the giant
Yeah.
Santa, a professional wrestler. anything they can do to make Arnold look like an everyman, which is impossible.
I know. It's still silly. And I like, this is not surprising, and this happens a lot with comedians, but if you rewatch the movie, I think it makes it even better. Most of Sinbad's lines with him and other like co-stars and like Arnold were improvised. It's just Sinbad, yelling like, like when he gets tackled during the whole balls like being thrown around the raffle thing, and like he's like Rodney King, like it's just so good.
The one line from him that's always stuck out to me in this movie is like after the bomb package scene, and he like stops and he goes, "Oh man, that was a bomb. This world's messed up, man. This world's messed up. Sick world."
He is so good in this.
I love Phil Hartman's character. Phil Hartman plays a really
gosh.
good and noxious neighbor. He did a similar character in Small Soldiers.
Yes.
Where he's just got this charm and he just smiles and you just want to punch him in the face.
He is everyone. I texted the one person I know that loves this movie more than anybody else. Former Rooster Teeth employee Tony Simonetta, head of our merchandising. Tony adores this movie, has a ton of apparel that has this movie all over it and that kind of thing. And I'm watching this movie and it is like, it's poorly reviewed on the internet. It's still like, I know a lot of people love it, but it's also like a lot of people think it's stupid. And I asked him, I was like, why do you think this movie works? Where, in my opinion, a lot of movies that try the same kind of like quote unquote dumb humor, it just feels cringy and unfunny. And I loved his take on it. And I agree with it. A lot of it boils down to Arnold's likability performance. And throughout this whole movie, yes, he is a bad dad. He's that trope. But he's still likable throughout the whole thing. And it's actually everyone's performance is what I actually I kind of took that a step further, because like Sinbad is firing on all cylinders with comedy this entire movie. Phil Hartman is being one of the best, you want to punch him in the face villains. The mom even feels like genuine and like she's not
Rita Wilson.
Yeah, Rita Wilson's not like a one-dimensional like just ragging on him the whole time. Like she really wants Arnold to win. Like even when he accidentally yells at his son, over the phone, like her response is like, "Dang it." Like she's like, "This was your opportunity to like succeed. I want you to win." Like they're all doing great. In fact, I don't want to speak ill of him. The one person I actually think that does poorly is that I think Jake Lloyd actually gives a pretty bad performance in this movie. It's very forced and robotic, where I think if like a more natural sounding kid could have like felt a little bit better.
It felt a little like over the top, like Christmas movie to me.
Yeah.
Like a little cheesy for like the kid to be that like a kid would be upset with all the things he was going through, but it was a little like pushing it to be like, I need this Turbo Man, Dad.
Yeah.
I got to get this Turbo Man.
He's pushing lines the whole time.
Yeah.
I was looking at the movie is set in basically the Twin Cities, Minneapolis, and what's the city next to it? I can't remember. And the parade at the end, which I love, it's like all practical, except like they expand it with some matte painting stuff, but it was like 1,500 extras, that kind of a thing.
Wow.
And it's actually based off of a parade that they had in Minneapolis. The parade is no longer there. It's like a marketplace now, like changed in like 2002 or something like that. But it's called like the Holidazzle Parade. And it was like one of those things that happened like every night in Minneapolis. Like it was a whole thing that like drew commerce and people there. But they did it during the day for the movie. And one of my favorite things about this movie is the level of advanced technology that is in the Turbo Man suit at the very end.
Yeah, I was watching and I was wondering, like, drones weren't really a thing when they filmed this.
No.
Like, how would they have filmed those scenes
Well,
where he's like flying around?
The filming is
Helicopter?
clearly green screens. I agree with you, Ben. It's the technology in his suit, like the literal flying hand
It's
control.
an Iron Man suit
Correct.
for a holiday parade.
It is high production value parade costume.
It's the combination of all of those things that I was just like, how did this come together? I started like analyzing the film brain, right? Of like, okay, wait, hold on. How did they do this scene?
Yeah.
Like, what would the practical way to do this in like 95, I think 96 when this movie came out, like to execute on this?
Yeah. And I agree with you, Blaine. They do their best to downplay the Arnold of him, but it gets the most comedically silly at the end when he is in the Turbo Man suit and it's just his eyes are obscured by an orange visor
Yep.
And he's got a voice modulator that barely modulates his voice, and his child and wife don't know him while they are a foot from his face.
Movie magic.
The parade is also the other like things you can't do today moment for me. Was the last one of like they pull up to the parade and the mom's like, "All right, kids, get out. We'll find you later." And they just like throw their 2 kids into this like parade of 1,600 people.
Yeah, it's pretty great.
The 90s.
Man. I have one gripe about this movie.
Go for it.
And I've had this gripe about a lot of movies actually now that I've gone back and rewatched movies like this. This is one of those movies that sets expectations of parents impractically high. It's very from the kid's perspective of how parents are supposed to be. But now as someone who has raised children for the last 14 years of my life, I watch and I'm like, Arnold's trying his best, guys. Okay. He is like trying to be a bread earner in a 1-income family. He is trying to make it to all of his, like, he even has the conversation with the kid at the one point. He's like, I was at your green belt. And he's like, but you missed my yellow belt. And it's like, the dad came to what he could come to, okay?
Yeah.
You can't come to everything.
It's not the black belt.
Yeah.
John, I swear to God, if I don't see you in some kind of Power Ranger outfit Christmas Day flying through the downtown streets of Austin, I'm questioning your parental abilities.
You're a bad parent.
In my opinion on this rewatching, Sinbad's the hero in this movie to me because he is the low-income public servant who is desperately trying to be a hero to his kid. The system is not in his favor. He's actually the nice guy who's trying to befriend somebody in line and that kind of thing. And I was rooting for Sinbad the whole time.
Have you guys ever experienced this situation where you're on the hunt for something that's like really sought after and there's not many left and you have to like track it down?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was the last time you had to do that? Sorry, this is related to the movie, but like it's something that I think at the time people were able to relate to. And I had a Turbo Man hunt pre-pandemic. I was trying to get a Nintendo Switch and I went all over the Austin area.
I remember that shortage.
Yeah, and it was like everyone knew we were about to go into lockdown, and it was like online ordering and like the online system for like, you know, how many they had in stock and stuff like that was totally garbage. But I ended up finding one like 3 cities over, and I remember the rush to get it and stuff.
That's
Similarly
funny.
for me, it was the like Wii, like the original Nintendo Wii. I was working in high school at a GameStop and I couldn't get one. Like my manager was like, they're already booked. People have already like reserved them all. And then I remember coming to work one day and she came up to me and she was like, I just got word Walmart's going to have a release tonight at midnight for the Wii. If you get in line early enough, like you can get one. And I like got off of my shift, walked next door to the Walmart and like got in line. And I was the like last person who was able to get a ticket to go get it. It was like, I never felt more like validated of like, I feel like I had insider information to like get where I needed to go just in time.
It's really good
cool manager,
stakes
by the
for
way.
a movie. Oh yeah, totally. That's
she ruled. She would like, like GameStop corporate, would be very strict with a lot of like rules and everything, but she would like put the Rock Band set behind the camera. So like when it was slow, we could go play Rock Band on work hours. She ruled.
That's pretty good.
It's good stakes for a movie. It's like I'm on the hunt for this Christmas gift, and there's a built-in ticking clock. And it's a good setup for comedy, and it's
I was
worried.
worried.
I should give this another one to watch.
You should. I was worried, like rewatching it because it'd been a while, and John asked me like, "What movie do you want?" And I was like, Jingle All the Way is like one of my favorites. Let's go with that one. If Blaine hasn't already picked it because it has Arnold Schwarzenegger in it, it might be like one of his favorites. And I was rewatching the start of it, and I was like, "Oh man." Like we have the mall scene. Maybe this is a little slow. Maybe I'm misremembering this.
The movie moves and gets out.
And then like we get to the mall Santa scene and like where he's like fighting all the mall Santas in the warehouse. And I went, never mind. This movie slaps. This is great. This is awesome.
It's pretty great. All culminating in like the whole like him accidentally being in the parade is just so silly. Which I realize like it's our only time we've gotten to see Arnold dressed up as like a comic book superhero. I think. I don't think he's been like very action like a super suit. Has Arnold ever been in like a super suit kind of situation?
I don't
Mr.
think
Freeze.
So. Oh, I guess.
Oh yeah, I guess he was he was a villain. This is him being a hero. We got to see him as a hero.
There's so much
I
like
guess
makeup.
Conan is technically a comic book hero.
It's true, but like I meant like him being in like a full body super suit. You know, the Iron Man
like
costume,
spandex,
yeah,
something like that. Yeah. Yeah, no, I don't think so. Like Mr. Freeze even was like so much makeup and costuming. Like it doesn't feel like a superhero type thing, you know?
Yeah.
Running Man was kind of a superhero costume.
A little bit.
in
It was a
Some
one piece
spandex.
like a spandex suit. Another connection to Tony Simonetta. He made a Running Man costume. In fact, I think Blaine didn't. Don't you have it?
It's currently in my closet.
Yeah, I was gonna say. Tony is like one of the best little fanboys I've ever met. He makes costumes and has so much paraphernalia. He's so fun to talk to about that kind of stuff. This movie's fantastic. I think this was a really good choice as well.
I love it. It's just such a good, like, feel good movie. Also, I have like a lot of nostalgia with it, right? I just think of, like my dad and like watching this with my brothers.
Yeah. Oh man, I could talk about this movie for so long, but I'm going to end this here and remind everybody that this isn't the end of the Christmas special. There's actually part 2 available right now on the Patreon. If you go to patreon.com/sneakydragon, you can sign up and watch it there, as along with just a avalanche of other content, including previous episodes of Stinky Pop, Second Wind, our supplemental episode for Stinky Dragon, our main show, Behind the Screen, our DM-led kind of behind the screen show, stuff like that. And also like we have a bunch of video game content where we play things like Baldur's Gate and stuff like that. And we would really appreciate your support. It would bring a Christmas smile to our face.
Oh.
But thank you guys. I loved all you guys' choices. This was so fun to watch these movies. I watched like 6 Christmas movies in the course of like 2 days. It was a great like jump start to the Christmas season for me. And I think you guys all picked actually really good choices that were just like really fun to talk about and learn about.
My dad's going to be psyched when Christmas morning comes around. I say, we got to watch Lethal Weapon 1 through 4.
I'm curious. I really want to know what Gus, Micah, and Barb picked.
I won't say it on mic because I want people to go watch the thing, but I'll tell you once we cut the mics, Chris.
Okay.
Ooh.
Yeah. But thank you so much, and thank you to you, our audience, and especially thank you to our supporters. Have a happy holidays and a wonderful new year.
Woo. Bye.